Hi, grade seekers. Nice to see you again. So we're going to be looking at another poem, again on the theme of school, and it's called Arithmetic, which is apparently the old-fashioned way to say mathematics or maths, and it's by Gavin Ewart. I'm going to read it once fast, just so you can get the feel of it, and then I'm going to read it a little bit slower, line by line, and just explain one or two things to help you with the questions. Arithmetic by Gavin Ewart. I'm 11. And I don't really know my two times table. Teacher says it's disgraceful. But even if I had the time, I feel too tired. Ron's 5, Samantha's 3, Carol's 18 months, and then there's baby. I do what's required. Mum's working, Dad's away, and so I dress them, give them breakfast. Mrs. Russell moves in, and I take Ron to school. Miss Eames called me an old-fashioned word, dunce. Doreen Maloney says I'm a fool. After tea, to the rec, pram pushing slow, but on fine days it's a good place, full of larky boys. And when 6 shows on the clock, I put the kids to bed, and I'm free for once. At about 7, Mum's keys in the lock. Right. So this Gavin Ewart is another British poet, and his poems are quite entertaining. Some of them are more serious, like this one, and others more light-hearted. Gavin Ewart is not an 11-year-old girl. He's writing from the viewpoint. So he's trying to imagine. So he wants us to know what it's like for children who have a lot of responsibility put on them. A lot of kids struggle at school and it's not always their fault. So this girl has had to play the role of mother and caregiver and nanny and has to really take care of everything in the home. So he wants us to become aware of that situation. Now, if Gavin Ewart were to write from his point of view, we might not have much sympathy or we might not feel much. But when he's writing, speaking as if it was an 11-year-old, it helps us to imagine what it's like for 11-year-olds. So it's another style of writing. We're going to practice it a bit this year, but next year as well. We're going to grow our writing skills so that we can write using the first person, pretending to be another person and writing from as if we were them. So that is what he's done. It's called Arithmetic. Although the whole poem is not about maths, there's a lot of numbers in the poem, and I think arithmetic is something that's really troubling this young girl's mind. You can see in the picture over there. I'm 11 and I don't really know my 2 times table. Now we can be shocked if we know our 2 times table well, or perhaps some of us don't know our tables, and there can be lots of reasons for that. The teacher, however, is being very judgmental, and she uses a very harsh word. She says, it's disgraceful, meaning it is absolutely shocking, unacceptable. But now she tries to explain herself. She probably hasn't had the guts or the confidence or the opportunity to explain herself to her teacher. But here she's explaining herself to us so that we can understand. But even if I had the time to learn the tables, I feel too tired. So perhaps this girl could have time at 10 o'clock at night to learn her tables, or between 11 and 12 at night, or perhaps if she woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, she could have time. But is it a reasonable request to expect her to do that when she's worked so hard all day? These are the kids that are in her care. So she's looking after her siblings. Siblings means your brothers and sisters. She's obviously the oldest because she describes the others. Ron, he's 5. Samantha's 3. Carol's 18 months. And then there's baby. She has a lot of brothers and sisters. And at these ages, I'm sure these children are not very independent. So they are relying on her to give them water when they're thirsty, to help them in the toilet. Maybe she's changing diapers. She's busy all day taking care of the basic needs of these small kids. Not fun at all, I'm sure. I do what's required, meaning it's her job as the older sibling, so she does it because it's what everybody expects of her. Mum's working, so that's where mum is all day, working hard to support the family. She maybe goes to work early in the morning and she's only back at 7, so she's not around. She's absent. It says dad's away. It doesn't explain exactly where dad is. Maybe she knows where dad is, maybe she doesn't. Maybe he's working somewhere, maybe he's a migrant worker, or he's working overseas, or maybe he's away on business. We don't know for how long, but he's not present and he's not there to help this poor girl do the basics. And so I dress them, give them breakfast. And then Mrs. Russell moves in. So obviously there's a lady who comes into the home, who does certain things in the home and looks after the baby during the day when she's at school. And I take Ron to school. Ron's 5, right? So he's old enough to go to school. She goes to school with Ron. Miss Eames, that's the name of the teacher. And the teacher calls her an old-fashioned word. This is the word dunce. I hope no one's ever called you a dunce, because it's not a very nice word. It's a word that's gone out of fashion, and I'm glad, because it was a word that people used to use to really humiliate kids who struggled to understand a concept, or kids who were not quick to respond. They would very easily be labeled or insulted by their teachers by very nasty words. And I'm glad that that kind of teaching is kind of frowned upon these days, because it's not acceptable. So a dunce, if someone calls you a dunce, it's a really nasty way of saying that they think that you are stupid, ignorant, that you don't know what's going on, that you're incompetent, incapable, that you're good for nothing. Okay, a dunce is someone who really doesn't understand anything about life. I don't think this girl is a dunce. I think she knows a lot about life. But unfortunately, her teacher has the impression of her. The teacher thinks that because she doesn't know her tables, she's not capable. Okay. Doreen Maloney, that's not the teacher. That's another girl, probably another girl in her class, says, I'm a fool. Okay. I know that you guys do see each other and call each other nasty names sometimes, and I wish you wouldn't. But I think this girl is feeling very, very sensitive. And after hearing from her teacher that she's a dunce, now the kids in the class are hearing what the teacher's saying, and then in turn calling her names, calling her a fool. After tea, now tea is usually a little, not just like when we're drinking tea in South Africa. In the UK, if you have tea, you're usually eating something as well. To the rick. Now that needs a little bit of explanation. Now a rick is short for recreation center. We don't have many recreation centers, or the ones we have don't get used too much these days. But most communities have like a hall or a building where there might be meetings or activities. So, for example, maybe by the Florida Library, they might have other meetings at the Florida Library, maybe knitting clubs or karate lessons or something where people go to do activities. So when they say they go to the rick, it means she takes them out of the home, all those brothers and sisters pushing the prams and pulling them by the hand. She leaves the home, and to get some entertainment, to get some relief from being at home and school, they go to the rec center. Now at the rec center, there's other boys and girls, some of them hanging out, some of them doing lessons, or maybe going to Boy Scouts or doing things there. But there's kids around, so she doesn't have to be alone with the children. On the way to the rec center, to the recreation center, pram pushing slow. Pram is a short word. It actually stands for preambulator. It's a very fancy word for push cart that you push your baby dolls in. So she has to push the little baby and perhaps a toddler, and who knows, I don't know how she negotiates all these kids. Perhaps she goes uphill in the sun. Perhaps she walks a couple of blocks to get to the rec center. But on fine days, it's a good place. So when the weather's mild, when it's not pouring down with rain, when it's not too hot, it's quite pleasant walking to the rec center and being there. One of the reasons she likes it, being at the rec center, is because it's full of larky boys. So larky boys are the kind of boys that like to play around. They're joking, they're maybe playing pranks on each other. So she finds entertainment in watching them, or perhaps they're interacting with her, teasing her or chasing her. And we're almost done. When 6 shows on the clock, that's when she can finally start to know that her day is winding down and her responsibilities are ending. So that's the time when she puts the kids to bed. Again, she's had to clean them, bathe them, brush their teeth, make sure they have eaten, make sure that they're in their pajamas, make sure that their beds are made, that they have everything they need, comfort them if they're crying. Maybe she reads them a story, or maybe she rocks them to sleep. A lot of responsibility for a small child, for an 11-year-old, most certainly. And then she's free for once. So if all her siblings go to bed peacefully, and if they all fall asleep straight away, which is not very likely for a bunch of kids, then she has a few minutes of alone time, a few minutes to rest and recover and breathe before, at about 7, she hears a of the door unlocking, mum's key in the lock, meaning at that time, mum comes home from work and hopefully the responsibilities of this 11-year-old girl are done for the day and mum comes in to take over. So what I'd like you to do is read through the poem again a few times by yourself. I like to either read it aloud to get the feel and to kind of practice reading aloud, or when you read it, even if you're reading it silently, pretend that you're saying it aloud so that you can kind of feel what it feels like. And then I want you to try and answer these questions. I want you to please answer in detail. I don't want you to get super stressed over this. If you really get stuck on an answer, I would like you to take an educated guess or to say what you think rather than say nothing. But I don't want this to give you a headache. But I do want you to do your best, and I do want you to write detailed, elaborate answers so that I can get a feeling of the way that you think and how your mind works so that we can work together better in the year. All right.